Tim, JV Johnson, that will run tonight's meeting for us. So thank you all for being here. I know the viral DAB meetings are not fun. We don't get to see each other in person, which is always tough to not do that because I'm a social person. I like to be able to see my friends and talk to them face to face. And I'm still not used to this viral world, but it is what it is. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and let JV take it over. JV, thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. First of all, are there any off agenda items? Well, I tell you what, we'll go to approval of the agenda first. Approval of agenda for August 3rd. Motion to approve it?
So moved.
Second it.
Okay, motion second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. It carries. Approval of the minutes for July the 6th. Any changes, additions? Hearing none, there's a motion to approve it.
So move.
Thank you.
Jose.
Second.
I think Jose got your second.
Second got Jose, okay. There's been a motion and a second to approve it. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now we can go to off agenda items. Does anyone have an off agenda item they'd like to bring up? Okay, hearing none, we will go to updates and issues with Brian.
All right, thank you. Right now, our main focus outside of COVID is budget, and they're kind of really related. We're in a big budget hole. We're balanced for the rest of the year, but we're working on the 21 budget right now. The manager made a presentation last week. Actually, it's days blur of his recommended budget. We have it again tomorrow, and then scheduled for final hearing on August 11th. A lot of controversy because there's some big cuts. We're looking at about a $12 million shortfall next year. And so we're trying to figure out the best way to do that. The ones that seem to be getting the most attention are contract management for Century 2 and Wichita Animal Shelter. Those two seem to be getting the most email churn right now. I've gotten about 400 emails on those two items on top of all the COVID emails. It's not fun. When you're looking at big dollars, you got to figure out where it's going to come from, knowing that our community's priorities are public safety and good infrastructure. So, and you've heard me talk about this before, between police, fire, and public works, the personnel alone is about 74% of our budget. And then so if you're not going to make any cuts in any of those departments, you have to start figuring out somewhere else. Right now, Century 2, we've basically been dark since March. There haven't been any events, and there doesn't look to be any events until sometime in 21. But yet, we've got about 40 people that we're paying full staff. The manager's idea is to do outside management to run that and take over that part of the business. Doesn't mean we're selling it. Doesn't mean we're giving up rights to the buildings. It would just mean contract management of it. So that's one idea. The other idea that's getting a lot of controversy and input is the Wichita Animal Shelter and becoming just a dangerous dogs pickup only, and then letting the Humane Society and all the different shelters take care of everything else. We're pretty unique in that we're one of the only cities our size that still run an animal shelter the way we run it. Most cities our size have taken through nonprofits and humane societies. And again, that's a big number. It's about 400,000, I believe. Again, there's a lot of other ideas working right now as a way to maybe not do that. We're getting a lot of emails about defunding police, and maybe take some of the money from the police department to use to help. And again, under the idea of keeping our community safe, dangerous dogs, dogs and animals that have rabies and so forth. Isn't that definition keep the community safe? And so a lot of ideas churning. Nothing's going to be decided tomorrow. I think we'll hear more ideas and alternatives to those two. I'm trying to think if there's anything else along the big budget right now. Those two seem to take the big priority. August 11th, we're going to revisit the mask mandate ordinance that we adopted July 3rd. We set in place for it to be reviewed back on August 11th. Obviously, the county has theirs as well. Don't know where we'll see that go. Evidently, the hospital call today was positive. It's trending down, which is good. We just need to continue to do that. So, I mean, those are the things that are top priority right now. Any questions on any of that? Yeah, it's not a fun place to be, obviously. And we're looking at, if this thing continues, 22 looks to be even tougher. So knowing that this community doesn't like tax increases either, we're trying to hold the line, try to keep cost, prioritize different, figure out different ways of doing things, and that makes for tough choices. But tomorrow, again, we hope to hear some more ideas, maybe some other alternatives that we hadn't thought of, some other people thinking on both of those challenges. We'll see what happens. But and then the other thing, you probably heard about Century 2 and the petition. Now that has gone to court, we really can't talk about it. Just let you know that we're working on some alternatives. I think the council wants to have a vote on the future of C2 and the East Bank. But legally, we couldn't accept this petition and vote on it the way it is. And so that's why we challenged it. Again, I still think this council wants to have a vote on C2. It just has to be something that's not going to tie our hands for every project. The way it was written, if you look, basically any building that is historic would then have to go to a public vote. So if we wanted to make improvement to McAdams Park or some buildings at Cowtown, some of our public works projects, all of that would have to go to a vote of the public. And that's just not practical. And that's why we had to challenge it. I think, again, you'll see some alternatives come from us, but we have to let the courts work their process through right now. That doesn't make the Safe C2 people happy. But I think they also knew their petition was challenged because they said so back in February when they came to us and talked about the Safe C2 petition. So, it is what it is. We got to let the courts work through now. But at the end of the day, I think there'll be a vote in the future. It just has to be something a little bit more flexible in how it allows us to deal with other projects throughout the city. So I've talked enough. I'm going to be quiet.
So when you mentioned the 40 people at Century 2, that include event staff?
It would include, yes.
Because most of the event staff was laid off last week, along with some administrative, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
I believe so. And again, we don't even have an RFP on the street right now for outside contract management. That's not going to happen until we decide if this is the way we're going to go. The fact that we have no events scheduled and nothing on the books for the next several months, it was one of those tough calls that the manager made.
Sure. Yeah.
I had a question about the baseball stadium.
Yeah.
Is there a chance that the city can go ahead and still use it for public events or functions since it's so big and people can socially distance to try to get some money out of that? Or once it starts being used, does the baseball team have to start paying rent?
Exactly. So that's one of the challenges. Once we give the team certificate of occupancy, then we have to start charging them rent, which is the 350,000 a year. With no events on their horizon, they're in a very tough spot. They own all of the equipment, from concessions to cleaning to, janitorial. All of the equipment inside the building is owned by them. And so they're the ones that are trained to operate. They're the ones that have the staff. City doesn't have the staff to do any of that.
Okay.
So it's not like we can open it up
Okay,
and run all the things because we don't have the expertise or the people.
okay,
So that's one of the concerns. The liability of someone else running their equipment puts the city at risk. And so until they actually take possession, then it's just kind of has to stay empty. We're working with them. They obviously want to start hosting events, but even high school football, which is one of the things I talked about, some of the other things, just even though it is a very large stadium, when we were talking about doing NBC there, the county health department was putting some very strong recommendations on social distancing, bathroom attendance, cleaning regimens, that it was just cost prohibitive for Wichita baseball to do,
Right.
even on a small scale. So I think for right now, it's going to stay vacant until we can get a way out of this COVID mess.
Brian, could you speak to any, I'd just love to hear you qualify any long-term concern you might have, right? If you, so much has changed in 6 months, right? And you look at the people that sort of brought that vision to life, right? Jeff is out of office, Lou's unfortunate passing, right? The tone at the top is gone. There's a restructuring of contracts between minor league and major league baseball. How nervous are you about, or any anxiety about the long-term?
Absolutely nervous. When you look at our development agreement with Wichita Baseball and Lou's group, they were supposed to start construction of the first 30,000 square feet of commercial development within 90 days of opening day 2021, which is, what, 8 months, possibly April, right? A lot has to happen for that to occur, and especially in this economy, no one's developing property, no one's putting hotels up because no one's staying in hotels. The prospects are tough right now. It's hard to imagine that that's going to be reality in April of next year. I will say that the ownership group is very strong. Lou was the main principal, but he has partners, and he's got a very strong commercial development group that have done a lot of projects across the country. I've talked to Lou's partners who've said, look, it's, they're dealing with big loss, obviously, but they're committed to the project going forward. They tell me that Lou's wife is definitely a believer in it. Their partners, their team is committed to it. So as far as baseball, this was a very important market for minor league baseball. They're thrilled with the stadium itself. They can't wait for us to start playing. They actually talked to some of the major league teams about hosting games here, because if you know, Toronto, they weren't going to let them play there. So they were looking for a stateside home, and they looked at Buffalo, Pittsburgh. They actually looked at Wichita too, because of our stadium and how well it is. That just shows how important minor league baseball believes Wichita is to the future. So I think we're going to be fine. It's just, how quickly does baseball come back at that regular entertainment? We just don't know. But the development, it may be slower than what we'd hoped. But again, I believe the team is committed to Wichita and the opportunity around the stadium. So we just got to keep our fingers crossed that things start to get better quicker, so that they can realize it.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Brian? Okay,
Cool.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
thank you, Brian. We will move on to the fire department report.
I thought I saw someone on.
I saw him on there.
I just got back from an alarm, so I made it just in time.
There he is.
Okay,
Can everyone hear me?
yes,
Okay. So for our district, I'm happy to report we didn't have any fires in District 5. Throughout the city for the month of July, we had 12 with, let me flip my paper over here. And so the sum of the structural damage for all those fires throughout the city was $176,000. The sum of the content damage was $32,500, which brings a total of $208,500 for fire damage throughout the city. Again, we didn't have any in our district. So I'm just going to kind of recap, give you a little bit what's going on inside the fire department. We're going to have a recruit class starting August the 10th, and they've made 14 position offers with 6 additional placed on a waiting list if one of those 14 or some of those 14 doesn't work out. We have ordered 4 new engines, 2 new trucks, and 2 of our current engines have been refurbished and will be placed back into service. Our investigation unit has received body cams, and they will use those at their own discretion, but they've been trained and so forth, so they're going to put those into service. And then lastly, we have one of our captains who is a captain on the dive rescue team. He has been he's obtained his national certification or master certification in PADI diving. And so that's going to be a huge step for our department in improving the safety and the operations, and also enhancing our service for the community. With that being said, that's all I have. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Are the refurbished engines the ones with the new engines themselves? Is that what we did?
Yeah,
Replace
they're taking the current chassis that we have, and then they're just basically going through the entire engine and refurbishing those, and they're going to place those back in service.
And are these the first 2 to do it?
Yes, these will be the first 2.
Okay.
Mhm.
I thought.
Yeah.
okay, thank you. We'll move on to the police report.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna get out of here then.
You can
Thank you.
leave.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm also off today, so I'm at home. But I just wanted to talk about a few things that we're doing. Obviously, with all the protests going on, all the community policing units have been doing a lot of that last week, and then also again tomorrow for the city building. I know Officer Hott wanted to mention that there was a speeding complaint at 8100 West Thurman. He opened a note complaint, and so far he's spent about 2.5 hours over there and has only issued a couple of tickets. So I don't know if it's certain times and he's just not there at certain times, but he's only issued 2 tickets. Also, after the protests slow down a little bit, we're going to start hitting the hotels again pretty hard. So I know we've had a lot of illegal activity, obviously the homicide out there last week. So we're going to be hitting those hard again with the Special Investigations Bureau. So we're going to be working on that too. So I know the larcenies are up a little bit, and larceny to autos are up a little bit more than that. So But we've just had, limited time with everything going on to work on special projects right now. But as soon as everything calms down, we'll be looking into those projects again. So that's about all we have. It's been really busy with officers out on COVID and of course quarantined officers from those officers. So we've been a lot of 911 calls lately. And that's about all I got.
Yeah, well, good luck.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Are there any questions?
Are you feeling better? I think you were sick a couple days, weren't you?
Well, I didn't have like COVID sick. I just have I'm missing organs, so that's part of that problem, but it is what it is. But no, I'm feeling better. So I'm back at it.
Well,
Can you
good.
tell us a little bit more about the protests? Have they been peaceful? Have they been violent? What's that been like here?
Well, most of them have been very peaceful. It's just, mostly people on the sidewalks and signs. Just the ones last week got a little out of hand. So I know that the department's addressing that and reviewing the video that we have available that was live to identify the people that were involved with the illegal activity.
Thank
Yeah, we
you.
watched 2 hours of that live streaming video because it was all taking place right in front of my husband's office. So he was a little concerned that there was going to be some damage to their property. And there was some very, very, very heated moments. Lots of language, lots of pushing and shoving, but I don't know that anybody got hurt.
Right. Yeah. I don't know if anybody got injured or not on Friday night. I wasn't there Friday. I was working Wednesday and Thursday and then Saturday. And of course we'll be there tomorrow, but I wasn't there Friday, so I don't really know. I watched some of the video, but I didn't really see exactly everything that happened.
Yeah. They were blocking the entire street. People couldn't even drive through. So I was wondering, how is that legal? I thought the police would make them get out of the middle of the street and stay in a parking lot or in the roundabout
Right.
without blocking traffic.
Right. And that's part of the thing that they're looking into is the blocking of the traffic. They're going to see if we can identify who was doing all that activity. The whole thing is that the group was trying to get us involved into a physical confrontation. So we were
That's what
trying,
I thought. Yeah.
we were trying to avoid that at all possible. So that way now we can go address the issues without there being a big fight on live, social media.
Yeah.
So we're trying to avoid all that confrontation between us and them. So that way, our department didn't look like we were confrontational. So we're just dealing with it in a little bit different way. We're just going after the fact and seeing it afterwards.
Yeah, we were watching and we called the police department and said, there's no police on any of this video. And I thought that was smart that you actually stayed away a little bit because you're exactly right. They wanted you to come in there and get into it with the police and they wanted to defund the police and all that. And we called and they said, we're monitoring everything. We've got eyes on everything. So okay, that's good.
Yeah. If something really major happened, there was plenty of officers to step in. We just didn't want to go in and antagonize the situation and make it worse.
Yeah, that was smart.
Yeah, I was watching Wednesday night, one of the live feeds, and it was pouring down rain and the group went to the city hall parking garage for cover, which was kind of ironic.
Yeah.
And then they started noticing that there's no police anywhere. Where are they all at? Like, there's cameras throughout that garage. They got eyes on you. So, yeah.
Yep.
I appreciate you guys keeping your distance, still being there when you need it, but allowing them to, say their piece. Just do it as safely as possible.
Exactly. Yep. I think, that's the whole thing. We just didn't want there to be a big, confrontation between the police department and them and have it, live all over the place.
Good.
Yeah, it's got to be tough.
Yeah, it is. It's tough, but we'll get through it.
Yeah. Well, good job.
Thank you. Any other questions for me?
No other questions? I think you can go too.
All right. Thank you guys. Have a good night.
Thanks,
Good
Lori.
night.
Thank you. With that, we'll move to Dave in Parks and Recreation.
Yeah, David McGuire here with the Park and Recreation Department. So don't have a whole lot to talk about. Our little project over at West Meadows Park, the tennis court repair project, it keeps getting delayed. The company that we're going to have do that. I think with the intermittent rain through July keeps moving back other projects, which eventually affects us. But I think they're planning on starting next week on that little project. Our recreation division with the summer camps and with school getting pushed back, they've decided to extend their summer camp program. So we're going to run camps through the end of August at I think 5 of our recreation centers. So I think that's going pretty well for them so far. Of course, we've had to limit the amount of participants that enrolled in the programs, but we are going to try to keep the kids busy as much as possible with having camps a little bit longer here in August. Our maintenance and forestry work is just moving along. We're mowing grass, keeping the weeds trimmed back and that kind of thing. I noticed I live in District 5 and DAB 5, and I've noticed a lot of the medians and medials were looking pretty shaggy, so we made a few phone calls to see if we could get some work done on those. And I noticed this past weekend driving around that I can tell a lot of them have been sprayed off and will be getting cleaned up, looking better. Our biggest nemesis all summer long has been illegal dumping in parks. For one reason or another, they've decided to leave all their mattresses and their sofas and their tires in our parks, and so we're having to deal with that. We get a lot of illegal trash in our trash containers, and so our poly carts are always full, and we're having to deal with that quite a bit. The pool over at Harvest Park is one of the pools that, of course, is going to get refurbished, and it is in its design phase. So I think they're getting close to finishing up the design phase of that second phase of pools that will get worked on. So Harvest is moving along. They have started the construction, the tear down, and then the construction of the pools at McAdams, Orchard, and Ailey. So hopefully next summer we'll have some new pools to open up for the summertime next year. One last little cool thing. If you've gone by Proct Wetlands Park, and if you drive in the one driveway there by Academy Sports, you can kind of look out over that pond, but all the lotus is all bloomed out. And last weekend when I looked out across there, it was really pretty. So if you get a chance to go for a little hike, you might walk down that bike path there and check out the lotus out there in Proct Wetlands Park. It's just covered, big patches of it. It's pretty cool. Other than that, I don't have too many things unless anybody has a question for me.
A question about the Harvest pool. What features will it have that are different than what it had before? Will it just be the pool redesigned, or is there some other added features to the park area?
If I remember right, and I'm not a part of the planning on that, Brian Hill and Reggie Davidson is the one that has handled all that in Troy, of course. But if I remember right, that pool is going to have some spray park or some like a little spray park added to the pool itself, so that the spray park will be inside the fence where the pool is, so you can have a place for the little guys to go play as well as your regular swimming pool. So I could get some more details and share that with Corey, and we could share that back out. But I'm not completely up to date on that pool.
I know that it'll have a 0 depth entry. So that'll be nice. Be easier to get in. You just have a gradual walk into it. There will be another slide that'll have a double loop, I believe. If I could be mistaken. And then there will be a climbing wall that is adjacent to the pool deck. So as you climb, you land back in the water.
Cool.
David's right. It'll take out the little wading pool, and instead there will be a little water playground that's got some splash features. And then there's some other surprises that the they're working on right now. It's not fully designed, like David was saying. It's still in progress, but I do know those are some of the elements that we talked about having. There would still be some lanes for lap swimming.
Yeah.
It'll have some nice new features. We're trying to put zero depth entry in all of our pools wherever we can. It just makes it a lot easier for ADA and accessibility, safety for the little ones. But that park has always had a slide, and I think we're adding a second one that's got a double loop. I could be mistaken, but it's such an active pool. It's one of the top ones in the city. It's right there behind College Hill in terms of attendance. So it has to have those type of things to handle the demand. But it's going to be pretty neat.
I'm listing a house over there next week, so I thought that'd be cool to know all the scoop about that pool, because that could be a top selling feature.
There's always an angle on you. I got it.
That pool has always had a really good swim team and swim lessons. So that was an important part of that pool, was to make sure we keep the tank so that they can continue to have a swim team, teach kids how to swim competitively and stuff. So.
Right. And I think it still has a springboard, the small diving board. And then, the pool bath complex, the bathrooms were just redone 4 years ago. So they're still in great shape there as well.
So otherwise, in Parks and Recreation, I think we're doing pretty good. We're getting ready to take registration for fall classes, and the new Evolve magazine is out, so you can sign up for a class.
No, we're seeing a lot of people use the park system this year because of COVID. Maybe not so much the recreation classes, but people are out in our parks, whether they're just walking or going to the playgrounds or, just some quality time outside. And so we are seeing an increase in trash. The canisters having to get picked up more regular, but we're seeing a lot more people in our parks, which is great. We're thrilled that they're using them, but they're also noticing things and making suggestions. And so we got to balance all that out.
That's correct. Good point, Brian.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Okay.
All
Thank
right.
you, Dave.
Thank you, JV.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thanks, Dave.
And next we have Tracy, Public Library.
Hi, everybody. The first thing that I want to mention is our fall gardening series. We are still doing it, but this year we're doing it virtually. That is actually a cooperative effort with the Wichita Public Library and the K-State Research and Extension Sedgwick County office. We are doing it through Zoom, just like this meeting. And what people can do is they can actually register through the library's website. And then what will happen is that they will be emailed a couple of days before with a link in order to participate in that. One cool thing about doing it virtually is they're actually going to be recording it, just like we are this session, and it'll be available on the library's Facebook page for people to watch at a later time. So another thing that I wanted to mention is typically we do a big read program in the fall. Because of COVID, unfortunately, that is going to be postponed, and we will be doing it in January, February of 2021. The book is Circe, and it is a Greek mythology is basically what it is. And we plan to do some virtual elements for it as well, but we still have to kind of determine how we are going to offer it. We had everything planned for the fall, and now we're having to basically look at what we had planned and see how we can do it differently. So we've got that. Some other things to know is that the library is open its normal service hours, but services are not as people are typically used to. We do have public computers, Wi-Fi, copying, faxing, all of those things. Our collections, though, people aren't able to actually browse them, which is something that can be hard for our customers, but they do actually have various ways that they can access them. We're offering something called a concierge service where customers can actually come in and they tell us what they're interested in. It can be specific or it can be kind of vague. And what we will do is we will go pull materials for them from the collection and then help them check them out. We also have some services that they implemented, I believe, in June, where customers can, like if they're having difficulty deciding what they want to read, they can request that a recommended reading list be created for them. And that's actually done by selectors who are really familiar with our collections. We also have something called a grab bag service. That's actually for our youngest customers. So that's like board books, picture story books, early readers. Individuals can sign up to participate in that. There are forms that are available on our website. And then there's always customers can actually use our catalog and place holds on materials for 25 cents per material, or they can actually, they see it's available at the library they want to go to, they can just call and then we'll set aside for them for 24 hours for no charge. So those are the services that we are offering right now. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions for Tracy? No? Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you very much. You guys have a good night.
Okay, thank you, you too. And last but not least, the Public Works and Utilities.
Can everybody hear me?
We can.
Yep.
Okay, this is James Wagner. I'm filling in for Gary this evening. I have a list here, so I'll just go through those if that's okay. Answer any questions you guys might have along the way. First of all, 29th and Mays intersection. The project is essentially complete. We still have sod installation to go. That's going to be done when it cools off just a little bit, probably around September. We added a little median out there in order to keep the quick trip entrance that was designed after our design was complete and the construction had started. That way it keeps their right in, right out. That's all I have on that project. 13th Street from Cowskin Creek to 135th. Right now we're in the stormwater and paving process. Project seems to be going pretty good. Right now the 13th Street's closed west of the 135th Street intersection. That's set to open to, and it's open to two-way traffic from 119th Street to Liberty. And then it's supposed to be open one lane northbound through the intersection. And local traffic will be allowed south of 21st Street to Nantucket Street. Two-way traffic is estimated to resume in late 2020. I don't know exactly when that is, but I'm assuming that's probably closer towards the end of the year. I don't have any other updates on that one. 37th and Tyler signalization project. All of our parts are in production. Everything's supposed to be here by October. The project is bid and under construction. Everything should be complete on the project, minus getting equipment deliveries in October. So all we're going to have to do once October rolls around is get our poles set and everything else attached to those. So it should be up and running there in October. Hopefully mid-October, everything will be up and running. There's some walking path repairs out in the Sunset Park area. Construction's supposed to begin here late this month, and construction estimated completion is late this year. Pavement preservation program. Right now, the only thing left out of the 2019 program is some microsurfacing of residential streets. Everything else is complete for the 2019 program. 2020 program, most of that is also complete. One of the biggest things we have left to do is crack sealing, and a lot of that's going to be on arterial streets. There's a half a dozen locations or 8 locations across the city on arterial streets that are going to get done. So that'll probably you'll start seeing some traffic delays in October-ish due to that. Those won't take very long. They'll usually block a lane off, and then they'll move on to the next street. And once that dries out enough to where it's not sticking to tires, then they'll open that back up. So it's not a huge deal to get those done. Kind of already spoke about this. The projects that we have in design right now are one of the big ones that you guys have is the Aquatics Master Plan Phase 2, which has that harvest pool. Sorry. We are expecting design to complete here shortly. If it's not, I'm not doing that. Sean's doing that, but we were expecting design hopefully by the end of this week at least, if not a little bit earlier, but hopefully bidding by the end of August. So construction start shortly, a few weeks after that, as long as everything goes okay with bids. And I take that back. Construction will start. There may be special provisions on when that wants to start because of how this the Aquatics Master Plan is set up to bid with different phases. So I might have spoke out of turn there. That'll be through special provision what Sean sets up. Sorry. I'd only have one little thing to touch up on Hoover Bike Path. We're bidding the signal materials right now. Right now what we're seeing is a 30-week delay or 30-week delivery time once those things bid. So just like everything else, things seem to be slowing down with the steel production industry. So, but those are out, ready to go. Hopefully we'll have those early next year sometime. I'm not sure what our time frame is off the top of my head. That's really all I had to touch on right now.
Okay.
I
Any
don't have-
questions for Jim?
Has anyone been through the 29th and Mays intersection now with the dedicated right turn lane?
I
I
have.
have. It's
Yeah.
great.
Pretty sweet. I think it'll come in real nice this holiday season. That seems to be when it was always the worst. So,
Yeah, I think for what we did out there, I think we took and we used our money as I guess fiscally responsible as we possibly could, and I think we got a really great product and without probably spending about a third of what we could have.
you might check to see if the road improvement sign coming soon is still up. Can probably
Okay.
come down now, and it's. I noticed that we put the sidewalk back, but we did it in concrete, whereas the old one is asphalt, I believe. So that ought to last a little longer.
That's kind of our standard is to go back with concrete. I know it may not match exactly, but we're better off with it that way.
Yeah. So it looks good.
Okay. Any questions for Jim?
All right, I'll sign off then. Thank you guys. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other final comments or anything before we adjourn? If not, a motion to adjourn.
Anybody have any good news? Anything they want to just share?
Yeah,
I mean,
really
obviously,
positive news.
Melissa being healthy again is good news, but
Good news. The clinic business of poor people needing health insurance is way up.
yeah.
Not sure good, but it is way up. So,
I made my economic development contribution for the year. I moved my parents to Wichita. So we have
Oh, good.
two more
Yay.
individuals on the tax rolls in District 5.
Even better.
You're welcome.
Has not
Did
slowed down. Construction has still been super busy. Remodels, residential new construction, commercial new construction. 2020 for us is going to be a record year. So construction still looks good in the city.
Awesome.
Alyssa, will you be officing out of the new facility that
Mhm.
Wagons building?
Yep, so we'll
Okay.
be up there near 96 and North Ridge Road, and
Yep.
we had a strong windstorm that came in and toppled all the main structure, and they had to start over again, clean it up, and start over. So we're a little behind, but hopefully we'll be in late fall.
Late fall? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It'll be a beautiful building.
And Jill, will you be moving downtown as part of the new facility?
Yeah, it's a go. We move in November and everything is on schedule, they say. I don't know how many employees we'll have in there. They just announced they postponed our back to work in
Right.
phases. We're in the third phase, but they're going to stay in the third phase until January, which is the employees have the option of working from home. So
Well, that building's looking amazing. It's very nice. So,
yeah, we're excited. But IMA is growing. We're hiring in the accounting department if anybody knows anyone.
that's
So
good.
business is good for us, and yeah, so it's good.
And Nancy, is Grace Med still doing testing?
Yes, we are.
How many
You just-
people are you seeing?
Every day we have appointments available for 50 people for testing, but you have to have an appointment to be tested and have the certain symptoms.
And how quick do they get their results?
Well, as of last week, we have changed providers and you now can get a response in less than 2 days.
Oh,
So
okay.
1 to 2 days. So
Great.
yes.
How long did it take to get your results, Alyssa?
Well, because I had it so long ago, it was pretty fast. I actually called several places and made sure I went to the one that had the quickest response. And it was Via Christi at Ridge Road and Reflection Ridge right there, 21st and Ridge. And it was 24 hours,
Oh.
which is a world record. But that's been what, 6.5 weeks ago or something.
Yeah.
So now it's a lot harder. So 2 days is pretty good.
If
And
you,
it's the-
if you have
Melissa,
it,
that's the fastest I've ever heard. So that's
I know.
great.
I know.
Yeah.
We were definitely early on. Of course, we
Yeah,
weren't
very good.
February, but yeah.
Very good.
we've had 3 medical assistants have. And they all knew within 24 hours. So if you've got it, they let you know really quick.
Good. Yeah. That's important.
We've had 3 other people tested and it's been anywhere from 7 to 11 days.
You have to quarantine the whole time. Once you get tested, you have to quarantine.
Right.
So, and then you find out you're positive and then you have to quarantine another 14 days. So that could be a whole month for some people. That's crazy.
Long time.
Well, as a final reminder, tomorrow's primary day. So if you haven't voted, get out and vote. I think I've got a new polling place. Every election, the last 4 elections, I've had a different polling place. And so it's tough to keep track. But so if you haven't voted, get out and vote. And if you haven't filled out your census, fill out your census. So
Yeah.
I got them both in, Corey, right? I saw your assistant peeking over your shoulder earlier.
Yeah.
She sent me a note to make sure I got those 2 things in.
They like to do that during meetings.
Yeah. Okay, anything else?
Thanks, everyone.
If not, we'll adjourn. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Have a good night.
You
Okay.
too.
You too.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.